A couple of weeks ago I did this shape and it was just round concave layers. So our shape being round, it descends into the back. So it leaves it quite heavy back there. And more the weight is taken out through the front here. And then as you can see, it leaves it heavier through the back. And that's due to either cutting angle or over direction. And so what I'd like to do today is I'd like to kind of change this, and instead of it, let's just check it horizontally, and I can see the shape of the haircut. And as you can see, it's getting heavier all the way towards the back. So what I'd like to come in today is I'd like to change it from round and make it square. See, the more progressive or aggressive shapes would be round or triangular. And what they do is they take a place of weight out and they leave a place of weight. So with round, obviously you can see it leaves it in the back. With triangular, it would take the back out and it would leave the front. So nice and heavy through the front. What I want is more of a kind of a consistent flow of that weight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come through, I'm going to flatten this dimension out through here. So take it from being like that to now working more flatter. See, whatever I put up here, that's what's going to fall down there. So right now we have this, and you can see that that's happening. So I want to change it, and I want to see a little bit more of an even distribution of weight horizontally through the shape, so we can remove a lot more weight through the back here. So we're still working in that kind of concave layers, but we're going to come through and we're going to take that weight away. So what I've done is I've actually just sectioned this other side. And this is the kind of haircut where I do section into, excuse me, getting a bit giddy, when I do section into those 4 standard segments that we're all kind of conditioned to do. Now I don't do that on every haircut, as you've noticed. When I work on round haircuts, I work from that point there and I follow this round of the head, this ridge of the head. So with this, all I'm wanting to do, if we look at what's happening, is I'm going to work from that point in. So I'm now going to flatten what I have. So I'm going to lift that straight up to the ceiling. So my elevation is just up. It's not following that head shape all the way through. So what's happening here is by pulling this up, you can kind of see that there's an element of over direction here through these front panels through here. See, no over direction, I'd be over here, all right, with this particular front area. So I'm just going to lift that straight up. Then use that front length, that fringe or that center part of the bangs as my guide. So if you're just joining us, what I'm doing is I'm taking that round concave I did a few weeks ago, that long kind of shag shape, and I'm making it more of a square layer. I'm coming through, I'm flattening that through. So with my sections, as far as my elevation as I move down the head shape, see, now I've got options. And this is all to do with how aggressive I want my concave to be. See, this is how I'm going to flatten it, how I'm going to take more weight out of the back. Now, as I move into my second section, it's what am I going to do with this and that? Am I going to bring it into the first, or am I going to bring it straight up to the ceiling? Do I want to make this flat, or do I want to make it inverted? Obviously, more inversion, I get more length. So when you're dealing with longer hair, then probably that's a better idea. Obviously, if I come and flatten that through, I'm going to layer it more and I'm going to reduce more of that length on the edge. So again, that's entirely up to you. I'm going to go with the box. So I'm going to lift everything straight up. I'm going to turn it this way. Now I've got that guide in there. I'm going to work from the inside towards the edge. That's how I like to work it. So my section is going straight up, using the first as the guide. And now I'm able to kind of keep that weight in that area. If I come and stand like I was all the way through, the natural tendency, guys, is for me to actually cut this off, because that's how my scissor moves, right? So I don't want to do that. I want to protect that. So I'm not going to overcompensate and do this to make that flat. I'm always going to do this, aren't I? All right, elbow down in a sense. So by switching my body position, I'm naturally going to put myself in a place to kind of control this and not round that front off. Again, it's all about controlling the haircut and the weight that you're distributing throughout each dimension. So again, what I'm doing is I'm going to bring everything just up to the ceiling. So I'll turn it this way so you can see that elevation as well now. So get rid of the first section, that's not needed anymore. I'll take the second and the third section. Make sure it's nice and clean. Now, did you see how I combed the guide? I've got to be careful when I do that. If I just do that, then I've moved the guide over. So I'll end up getting shorter if I'm not careful. So always comb what you're about to cut last, before you start opening and closing scissors. Again, it's all about the control. So straight up to the ceiling. My body position, I'm just facing these sections. So that's the section angle. So my shoulders face that. If I start doing this and twisting, I'm going to twist the hair because I'm going to stay parallel to my shoulders. That's kind of a natural thing. So you can see I'm keeping the length, but I'm reducing the bulk as far as we go towards the back. So again, I just need the previous section. So I don't need the first two, I just need number 3 and number 4. A little bit there, I don't need. So I would be using the mirror here to make sure that my elevation is on point. And just straight up. Very methodical. Very robotic in a sense. Any slight movement, that's how I'm going to start to change shapes into round and triangular. All right. So I've worked all the way to the parietal ridge. So now all I really have to do is I can just bring all of this up and connect to that section at the parietal ridge. I don't need to waste my time and continue to take individual sections. If I do that, then I risk cutting it shorter than what the top is. The guide is at the parietal ridge. So again, if you're just joining in, I'm turning the round concave into more of a square concave. So I'm taking more weight out of this back area. So this is what we had a couple of weeks ago. Now I'm doing this. So what we're seeing is it descends towards the back with the round. What I'm looking for is to be a bit more like this with my weight now. So once I've done that, I can do the other side. So I'm going to just section off the same way and I'll repeat the process. So right behind the ear. I start at that spot because that's right where that kind of apex area is. It's the top of the head shape. And really what we're doing is we're kind of filling this area in. All right? So I'll just section that off and then we can get on with that. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. I used a little bit of the Day of Grace by Evo to begin with. This is like a pre-styler primer. It's great detangler, it's great working spray. So now that I've done that on this side, I can repeat the process over here. So I'm going to again work with my fingertips, working from the highest point, and then my knuckles working where it starts to drop, so I can keep that flatter. If I move and I stand over here, then I'll be cutting from the front. Now your arm comes up this way, so it will encourage you to cut more round if you work from the front towards the back. So if I work from this out and then this out again, I'll manage to keep it nice and flat. So it's putting yourself in a position to succeed and not to fail. What we don't want is a bunch of hurdles along the way. We want a nice, smooth sprint to the end. So same thing. Again, combing the side of the section that you're about to cut straight up to the ceiling. And we'll just continue working in that same manner, using my previous section as the guide. Try not to take giant sections. If I do that, then I will start to use unnecessary over direction. I'll start to pull more towards the center. So you have to use your noggin here and make those sections a little bit smaller so that you know that you're not covering as much ground. Section, same exact process. So I work all the way over to the parietal ridge. And once I hit the parietal ridge, I then lift everything else straight up to the ceiling. So you can see, combing the side of the section you're about to cut up towards the ceiling with the guide. So once I'm at that parietal ridge, I don't have to waste my time and continue to take sections and just the previous. It's almost like I have a stationary guide now, and I can just lift those up to the ceiling and use the hair at the parietal ridge as the guide. So once we've got that in, I can have a bit of a check. I'll turn around a second.
Okay.
All right, so let's have a thorough check through there. So we'll check this side. So now I'm going through with vertical sections to check what I've just done. Lifting them up to the ceiling. And then you can see that's what I've achieved. So let's work from back to front all the way through, cross-checking this. It's a square shape, it's very technical. It relies on precision. Because if you don't have that, then it's not a square. It's a squished square. So again, body position, my shoulders are parallel to the section angle.
Someone had a question.
Yeah, please.
Most people come in with a side part. Do you change your sectioning for that?
Side parting really is going to work more with triangular shapes. If I throw a side parting on this, then I'm going to have shorter layers on one side, heavier on the other one, okay? So squares are really more about working with that central, again, it's symmetrical shape, right? So that's where I'm going to work with. If I shift this over here and I make this the same length, then I'm going to have a higher layer on one side than I am on the other. So it's going to do that to the balance of those layers. And then if you part it on the other side, it's going to do that. If you part it in the middle, it's going to be even. All right? When we're working with shorter in the front, and obviously it's going to move to longer towards the back because of the hairline, it's very difficult to work with side parting balances. All right? What you really want to do is go with that symmetry in the center. So that's how I think of that. Can I make it even? I can, but then I can't make it even in the back. You get what I'm saying? I can make this fall evenly, but when it falls in the back, it's going to be uneven. Great question. If you go to my tutorials, you'll see balancing, side parting, working with triangular shapes. So same thing through here. As you can see, that last bit, the little bit of length there, that's probably from me just pushing it in a little bit too much. Can always cut more off, right? I feel the mistake in a haircut is when you go shorter and you're not supposed to, right? Leaving it longer, don't feel that's quite the mistake. Because look, I can just go boom, 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 boom. Take that off.
Boom.
So we've got full concave going on. Again, I've opted for the top being flat, not so inverted of a concave. If I had a much more extreme length, then I would be working more of that inverted concave. Not like this, all right? If I work this way, then that's falling into that convex world. That's following the head shape 90 degrees. Concave is the opposite. It's the exact opposite to graduation. So graduation means it's shorter at the hairline at the bottom and then gets longer all the way through. Concave is the opposite. It's shorter here at the parting and everything else gets longer. So when we look at it in, not lifting it up to the ceiling, look what's happening. It's literally a very extreme form of Christmas tree concave layers.
Do that again.
So a lot of people think, well, I'm cutting this square this way. Not really, this is more concave, guys. See how that's shorter there and everything else is longer? So really when it falls, it cascades. Those, my friends, are concave layers. Shorter on the inside, longer on the exterior. So now what we've got to do is we've got to transform or transition into the back now and continue the square shape to remove the weight this way, right? So all I'm going to do, as you've noticed, I've turned the head the opposite way now, and I'm going to work from this point this way now. So my fingertip is always on the inside of the haircut. See, the head shape's going to curve that way. So if I work from this spot here, I'm able to control and fill this area in. If I come and stand over here, as you can see, what's going to happen is I'm going to come from this point with the scissor. My arm curves, right? I'm not going to overcompensate and do this, especially if those layers are long. I'm 6 foot tall, so luckily I can quite kind of reach most of them, right? But if I do that, then I risk cutting this shorter than what it needs to be, not necessarily flat, more curved. So I use that when I need that curvature. And in this haircut, I don't. So we're going to use part of that front as the guide. So you see now I'm working from this spot, and I can make that flat. So whatever reaches up. And again, that's also going to start to cascade down into the back, because what's happening is we cross through the crown, and we cross through that spot right there. This is now vertical. So we can see our cascading layers also in the back here. See how they're shorter, and it's just going to get longer and longer and longer towards the exterior. So really, concave just means it's this. So it takes out all the weight from the top and leaves all the weight down, well not all of it, but leaves majority of weight in the bottom. So let's continue in that same manner. Again, just lifting straight up to the ceiling. So a pretty easy haircut to do. But in this case, instead of cutting short to long, we're just cutting flat. It's the same scenario. Once I get to that parietal ridge area, I will then start to condense my sectioning. Just making sure everything is in there. So I'm able to drop the elbow and cut in a more relaxed fashion than doing this. So now I'm at that spot. So I could join this in as well, make sure everything's fluid from front to back, back to front. So, starting to see what's going on here. Now, is it square right now? No, not really. As that head starts to round and round off, I've kept that flat. So there's a little drop off through here, but we've yet to come through the back and take that away. So I'll just do the same thing on the other side now. Exact same process. So really all I'm doing is lifting up to the ceiling all the way through this haircut.
Someone asked, is this technique good for long layers or just short layers?
It's a square shape. It can be on any particular length that you want it to be. So do this on short hair and it's a pixie. So there's so many different scenarios this could be. Bless you.
Thank you.
See, with haircutting, what changes is the length that these shapes are cut. The shapes stay the same. It's just the length that you change. Then it starts to become a different haircut that has a different name, but it's still square layers. Like a butterfly, a shag, round concave layers, they're all the same thing. So this, if we go back to the 90s and you do it longer, it's Jennifer Aniston. It's square layers, where it doesn't get heavier in the back. But I've gone, as you can see, quite short with those layers. So we'll keep going, same manner. Couple of things I want to talk about. I'm going to be in, we're going to be in Connecticut this coming weekend, teaching a sold-out hands-on class at my friend Gina Bianca's salon, The Network, in Plantsville. And for those of you who can't make it to that class because it's full, I'm going to be in Boston the weekend after. So I'll be in Boston on October the 9th. And we have a class at the Artists for Humanity Center, which is this really cool like art gallery. And I'm going to be teaching my Knowledge Destroys Fear class there. It's a special class. It's with my partnership with Evo. If you didn't know, I've partnered with Evo, and we've come up with some amazing hands-on classes for the Evo world. And yeah, it's open to anybody. And if you're interested in taking that class, again, it's on Monday, October the 9th in Boston. You just follow the Linktree link in my bio and you can find the link to more information and you can get tickets. It's a class of about 25, 30 people, so it's a really nice size. And yeah, it's going to be awesome. So I've lifted everything up. So again, I'll just give it a little cross check. We need a bit of moisture in there.
I like this one. I like this one.
It's cool, square layers just kind of balances it. It doesn't leave it mullet-ish, you know. You're always going to have a mullet element to any of your longer layers haircuts, because even in your shorter layered haircuts, because your hairline drops, so the length that you cut will always be longer in the back, because you're going to pull that hair further than what you did the sides or the front. So that's why you can maintain length and still have quite short layers on the inside.
Someone asked, do you always have to start in the front of the head on this haircut, or can you start in the back?
You can start anywhere when you've got a clean canvas. Great question. But to begin with, I already had, and kind of like you're probably going to have, round layers. It's the most popular haircut on planet Earth. If there's a form of shortness through here and it gets heavier in the back, that's a round layer, right? So I had to work from the shortest point, which is this front right here, to make this square. If I'd have started in the back, I may have got everything else square, but then this might have been longer than what the front was, right? It might have been shorter than what the front was. So by working from that spot, that's what I had to do. So in this scenario, that's what I would do. If you already have all this weight in here, it's a barb or whatever, and you want to do a square shape in there, you literally can start anywhere you want. You can start in the center back, start in the center top, you can start right through here if you want. Any of these peaks of your head shape is where I would start. So now that that's done, it's kind of very mullety right now, isn't it still? So let's kind of take that away. Let's do the back. So I'm going to section just like I did before. Just get rid of the front. I don't need that now.
Someone asked if a client has bangs, would
Yeah.
you start right behind where the bangs begin, or where would you start?
I'd start from the bangs. This client had bangs, this mannequin. So I'm working from that lightest, shortest piece in the center so that I can make this full square. If not, then it's a rounded front with a square back, isn't it? You know what I mean? So I'm going full here. My fringe, as you can see, or bangs, is in this region. So we're talking like cheekbone area. So obviously if I'd have got a fringe right here and it was completely independent to the rest of the haircut, then those layers are going to be quite short. So I could go a bit longer, but then my fringe doesn't tie into the rest of the haircut. This, I've got everything in there. So again, it's all optional, and figuring out what option you want to do and how to control that. And that to me is the kind of essential thing in haircutting. You've got to understand it so you can control it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come through the back area. And I'm literally going to do a very similar thing to what I've just done in the front. See, this terrain is just like this terrain. It's the same thing. So if I pretend that this is the top now, I'm now going to flatten this through as well. See, right now it's still mullet. I've just cut the top. So all this is much longer than what this is, and heavier. So I want to kind of even that out now. So I'm going to add an element of triangular in the back, which is going to flatten that through. So I'm not going to use any specific length here. If I had a particular length in mind, then I would use that as my guide. All right? But I'm kind of going to work off the natural round of the head. So if we lift this up, we can see what we've already cut. So if I move to the natural round, which is right there, that's the same spot as where your parietal ridge is. A little bit lower. There we go. So now, that guide. So flattening through the back now. So I'm taking it down into the lengths. Now remember, the length in the back is much longer than the length in the front right now. It's a full mullet going on. So I'm bringing this back length up into more of a region where the side is now. Now by using this as the guide, that's the same length as what we have through here. Straight back. Not into the center, but straight back to a wall or an imaginary wall behind the mannequin. So now I'm opting to take the square or flatness into the back. This is where a mirror comes in real handy. See the corner? Continue. Pull that straight back. So if you think about it, I'm literally doing the same thing that I did in the top now. I'm flattening this. I'm over directing the hair straight back that way. So it's just like me doing this and taking my sections and lifting straight up to the ceiling. I'm doing the same thing here. So what we're going to get is this. That's what's going to square this off. If we have any of this going on, then that means it's going to get heavier towards the front. Again, I'd love a mirror right now, just to see that line better. So I would always say, use your mirror when you're cutting so that you can see what you're doing. And now we'll do the other side. I'm going to bring her up a little bit, just to make it easier on myself. Same thing, straight back. So now I'm not combing this side, I'm combing this side of the section. That's what's not been cut yet. The guide is on the inside. If I comb the guide, I move it towards me. If the guide moves, it becomes shorter. That's how you make mistakes in haircuts. Again, try not to take giant sections. I want to be able to control the shape. I don't want it to be inconsistent. Yes, I can take some of those inconsistencies out with cross-check, but then I have to just make sure that my cross-checking is perfect all the way with my elevation, my over-direction. Can't see the guide, so that's too much hair. So I'm going to reduce the size of that section. I don't want to risk it. I don't want to get too confident or overconfident in myself. Don't take it for granted, is what I mean. So there I can see now. So again, nice and flat.
Someone asked, do you think it's a good idea to learn how to cut with both hands?
I've been asked that a lot in my career. It's not necessary. You know what I mean? It's something you can try to do for sure, but it's not necessary to learn to cut with both hands. I feel it's good to learn to cut or to blow dry with both hands, or iron and manipulate the hair that way. But it's not a necessary thing to cut with both hands. Now, there are certain people in our history that have been able to do that and have been known for that. In the Vidal Sassoon world, after Vidal was kind of unable to be the art director, owner, business guy of Vidal Sassoon in the late 60s, he passed his creative director role on to a guy called Roger Thompson. And he could cut with his right hand and his left hand. And that's pretty awesome. But again, it's if you want to, that's an excess, you know what I mean? Like, do you need to learn to play the guitar with both hands kind of thing? You don't, but you can if you want to.
Someone asked.
So, I mean, it's kind of similar in a sense. You could use the argument that you use both hands when you play piano. It doesn't hurt, let's put it that way. Sorry, what was the...
What's the difference between vertical sections and pivoting?
Okay, so if I pivot, then I'm going to start to take that weight away. I'm working more on a diagonal at some point through there, so it cuts through that way. So if I'm going to over direct, it's better to keep my sections block and keep this solid all the way through. I start to pivot, I encourage to push that weight through a different way or remove more weight. That's how I feel about that. So I can pivot, but I get a little bit different weight removal. So, you know, think like a box, you know what I mean? So that's kind of like what I'm aiming for. So right now we've got this and this flattened. The last thing that I want to do is now come through here and flatten that. We're going full box. Yeah? She there?
Yeah.
So let's just put some water in and have a look and see how she reacts.
Someone asked, were you using a traveling guide?
The guide travels until I get to the round of the head, and then it remains stationary. So just like here, I travel, then I stop. This is the guide for all of this. Boom. So it's the same thing in the back. My sections. Travel, stop, back. Think square, guys. Think box. Just cut the box. If I pull towards the center in the parting or the middle, it's not going to be a box, is it? It's going to do that. Looks good though, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we'll keep it. What do you think?
The front?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then I feel like it's... Yeah, I'm going to take that corner off. Let's go full box. Okay, we've decided it. We've agreed that we're going to go full box. So I'm going to section again right behind the ear. Get rid of the back for now. And now we're going to move into the sides. So I've showed you kind of how to leave it kind of heavy. Now we're going to go full square. So a full box. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take some of this off and flatten that through here. So I'm flattening every surface of the head shape. I'm turning the dome into a box. So right above the ear, take my vertical section. So I'm looking at the length at the parietal ridge, right at the base of it, right there. Boom, that area. Same thing, pretend I'm cutting a box. So I'm just going to send everything to an imaginary wall. I'm stood in a box, so I'm using the walls of the room to help me create the haircut. Corners. So now let's extend that into the back. So I continue to bring those vertical sections this way. So again, imaginary wall, just send the hair to the wall.
Perfect.
Boom. So there's a corner here. So there's the back, there's the side. So now let's do the other side, and then we're there. So find the same spot on this side, the lower part of the parietal ridge. Again, vertical sections, right, at the ear. So again, working from the length that I have at the parietal ridge down. And now bringing everything over to this wall over on this side. Now that's in, I can move into the back and again just bring everything to this wall over here. So I've decided to square the entire haircut. So to cut everything flat. So I've turned every round plane of the head shape. I've worked against that and I've worked flat. Again, sending it to the wall. Be careful when you go past that second knuckle. So all the way over here. this shouldn't reach. It doesn't. That means I've created a corner. Alright. We're getting there, we're nearly there. So the last thing I'm going to do is the length. So this is what happens when you do a square shape. When you do a round shape, you're going to see that the hair will start to have these kind of steps. So step 1 is the fringe. Step 2 is that front hairline. And step 3 is the back hairline. So we could keep that if we want to, which I see quite a lot of, which is quite nice, isn't it? Or we can take that back off and make it full on square, proper layers, and with a square outline. So to do that, all I'm going to do is just join it onto this. So we'll just kind of come through and we'll clean all of this up, because right now you can see that it represents the hairline. See, that right there is behind the ear. This is the sideburn. So this is actually copying what this does. That's what happens when you don't put anything in to begin with. I went straight to the layering. So now let's just take the mullet away. So if I had a specific length that I'm working from, then I would have started with this length and I would have used this as the guide. So I wouldn't have started on top. It's literally like connecting the dots. So I'll do the same thing here. As I point through, so I can see where my length is supposed to go to. Using the points of the scissors because I just want kind of a softer edge.
Someone said, I wish you could come to San Jose or San Francisco for hands-on.
Ah. Well, you never know, that might happen in the future. I know that we're going to be having a Knowledge Destroys Fear razor class in San Francisco. That'll be in late November. And Kelly's going to be teaching that one, because she's our razor specialist. So now that's in there. Oh, you're starting to see that kind of 90s layering shape now. So this front right now is a little bit, actually, because I've cut flat through the top, it means the front part of the fringe is actually longer than anything else in it. So what's happening is this is actually falling longer in towards the center there. So what that does is it leaves a little bit more weight, so you can place it over if you wish. Now if you want to kind of encourage the hair to move more that way, then you're going to have to come in and remove some of that excess weight in this area. So let's see if we can find it. Just, if you've watched our last few lives, you'll have seen me work on this. front panel. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take that front panel and move it over to the other side. And there's going to be a little corner that we find. So my fingers are parallel to that section angle, and I'm going to pull it perpendicular from that. So that's the side length of the fringe right there. So we can afford to take this corner off here.
Someone asked, will we be in LA?
Yes, we will be in Los Angeles. November 13th, I will be teaching a Knowledge Destroys Fear hands-on class in LA. So for those of you that don't like to come down to San Diego, this is your shot. You can catch all of us, well, all three of us will be there. It's a special class with Evo, so I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, you can find more information by following the link in my bio, the Linktree link. And again, that's November 13th.
How about Chicago?
Nothing for Chicago yet, but 2024 is right around the corner, and we're starting to book our classes and our calendar for next year. So if you're interested in bringing us to your salon.
What about New Jersey?
Well, we'll see. Just stay tuned to the page and you'll find where I'm going to be or where we're going to be. I will be everywhere next year. So just a little bit more lighter through that area. Anyway, what I will do with this is I'm not going to attempt to do anything with it other than put some product through it and then kind of let it do its thing. Again, I've got Day of Grace in there. I've worked that in there. I think what I'll probably do is I'll either use some liquid rollers or some Whip It Good. I've not made my mind up yet, but I'll probably use one of these two and work with the texture in here. Probably allow it to naturally dry. If I was in a rush, I would use a diffuser. But kind of a nice, cute shape, isn't it? Even
like
when
it.
it's wet, it should look something like what you're trying to achieve. It shouldn't be a case where you're just nibbling here and then styling it with the blow dry. Cut with intent so that it looks like that when you're not there. You know what I mean? Make it easier for your clients. I'm going to work with the liquid rollers, so I'll just put a bit of that in it and let it just do its thing naturally.
I like that one with the salty dog.
Yes. So we'll pop a little bit of this through it. Just getting it in there. So liquid rollers by Evo. And then we'll just throw a little bit of the salty dog in there as well and let it do its thing naturally. So just try and get more of an even application, moving it through the hair. I think we're all pretty familiar with how we apply product. Okay, so once that's in there, let's get it into place. So again, what we've done is a square layered shape, real homage back to like early 90s, mid 90s kind of vibe. You go shorter with this and it's got that that Meg Ryan 90s look to it. Go even longer, it's Jennifer Aniston and Monica. What's her name in real life?
Courtney Cox?
Courtney Cox, yeah. I think they both shared the same haircut in the first season. Salty dog.
Salty dog.
Salty dog salt spray.
Magic.
Magic spray. So just giving it a coat of spray. Lifting those layers up and getting it in the underneath area as well. And then I can just kind of manicure the hair and I'll let it just do its thing. And then once it starts to get drier, then I can start to move it around and manipulate it a lot more. But that's what we're going to do to the room. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that tutorial. We went full square layers all the way through, so literally just cut a box on the head shape. We worked from a pre-existing haircut. So the pre-existing haircut was really a long shag haircut, so lighter in the front, heavier towards the back. So what we did is we just used that shorter length through that fringe area and just took all that excess weight off in the back. Then what we did is we came through the back and we took this flatter, so it really shrinks those layers in. And then we also worked the flatness through the sides as well. So we've got a full square this way and we've got a square that way, right? And this way. So we've boxed her. So pure square layers.